Hi, everyone. Our reading from today is going to come from Deuteronomy chapter 3, starting at verse 21, and we'll read all the way through chapter 5 and verse 33. Now, before we get started, I want to bring you into the New Testament. In John chapter 14 and 15, Jesus said, "If you love me, you will obey me." As we are reading these chapters, the essence of them is simply that. If you love him, you will obey him. Because see, obedience is an act of love. And because we love him, we obey him. And it's not 99%, it's obeying him 100%. It's not doing it a little in our own way, but according to how God said. Now let's look at these chapters. In particular, let's start with 3 and 21 through the end of that. See, I don't know about you, but when I read this, it broke my heart. Why? Because Moses is the intercessor of all intercessors. Moses was the meekest. God even said he's the meekest man on the earth. Moses obeyed God in everything. Moses stood between God's anger and the people. But he did one thing that God saw as an act of not just disobedience, but the disobedience that caused him not to be seen as holy before the people. Here's the breadcrumb. God is serious about obedience. And obedience is an expression of love. And through our love, we express obedience. And through obedience, we express our love to God. That's how God sees it. Now let's continue on. Moses even shares that God was angry with him. I know you remember the story. Moses and Aaron allowed the people to frustrate them so much because there was no water and they were complaining. And so God told them, go and speak to the rock. But in their anger and their frustration, they hit the rock, not once, but twice. And the water did come out and the people did drink. But God was angry. Here's the next breadcrumb. You must be ever careful not to allow the aggravation that may come. You know, we say it's other people, but that stuff in us and cause us to miss what God desires to do. Obey, obedience, in good and in the bad. Moses goes on to share with them in the next chapter 4. He's talking to them and commanding them to obey God, to obey God. And he forewarns them about idolatry. In other words, obedience keeps us from worshiping other idols and seeking after other God. Breadcrumb. Obey God. Obey God in all things. And he will always be the one and only God, because he is. Moses shared that with them and even reminded them again in chapter 4 and how he wasn't able to go to the promised land. He was going to miss. He's going to miss. Here's the next breadcrumb. Every battle is a war against your destiny. God had destined that Moses would go into the promised land. But because of the things that happened, he didn't make it in. Next breadcrumb, God has a destiny for your life. Don't miss your destiny. You can still go to heaven, but miss your destiny of fulfilling all that God has for you to accomplish, to do, to receive, to know, and how to live in him while you're still on the earth. Glory be unto God. Moses sums it up in chapter 5, and he says, I'm going to go there just a minute because I want to read it to you. Amen. He says, these words the Lord spoke to all your assembly at the mountain in the midst of the fire, the cloud, and the thick darkness, and a loud voice. He added no more. Here's what Moses is saying, and Moses captures this. He's saying, of all the people, God chose you, that he would speak to you face to face. You saw him in the fire. You heard him. Of all the people in the world, who has a God like this? And here's your breadcrumb. God has chosen to speak to you face to face, to allow you to hear his voice. Who in all the world has a God like our God? No one. Don't give that up for anything. The more you obey, the more he will reveal, because God desires for you to know him. Moses charged the people and commanded them, walk in him and in his way. Obey, be diligent. And that's what I want to leave you with. Be diligent in obeying God. Be slow to anger, quick to forgive. And then, and whatever he asks, whatever he says, you do it for the glory of God. God bless you all. Have a great rest of your day, and in reading, as you continue to receive breadcrumbs for the journey. Amen.